Hey, Anthony. If you're in the ebook, so when you registered for this workshop, you added the Using Runestone 20 ebook, and I can share that. Hang on a second. Let me get to the right.
Yeah, I've got the ebook. I might have even done the assignment early or something, but because I just went to do it and I think it was just the 4 things to drag.
No, there's more than that. So let me second. I'll share my screen. Show you that. So this is the Using Runestone 20 ebook. If you scroll down past these set of projects, there's the assignment section. If you click on that, there's 4 of them now. So there was a short problem set, a welcome reading assignment, and then videos that you could watch.
I see. So the new ones are the.
Well, they're all.
I see. The new one is only the last one.
They're in order of their due date.
That's right.
So there were 3 the first day. It looks like.
Yep.
Okay, and then day 2 is to watch a video. Okay, but point being, I guess I just didn't know that was there. So should I just check every day the assignments to see if there is an assignment or not? Yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
Brad, I've made you a co-host. So now that we have the upgraded, correct version, I wondered why that was missing last time because I was able to do this during the semester.
I think there were all kinds of warning signs that we missed yesterday.
Yeah.
Like when our enrollment count didn't go above 100 on the participants list was a big one.
Well, yeah, it's a little late to figure it out then, but yeah, I had 140 students in my lecture, so and I had emailed my support people who said, yeah, you have the ability to have 300, but I should have checked my profile. My profile is what set 100.
Yeah.
So somehow it dropped back down after the semester finished. So we apologize to everyone for the limit if you were not able to join yesterday. I have put a link to the video from yesterday in the chat window, and Brad also sent it out in his email. We have a lot less people today.
Oh, we still have 4 minutes until 3 o'clock.
Yes. Hopefully they'll show up. I just put a little in the chat window, a little bit of what's going on, what are we doing today, what have we done Monday, what are we doing coming up? Yes, it's at 3 p.m. Eastern each day, Monday through Thursday.
That's weird. I'm not seeing anything from before I joined.
Oh, that's typical. It won't show up. Here, I can
Well, you might as well wait now until.
No, I usually do it several times during, because people join at all times, so. I was watching your videos that you put in as assignments, so.
Good job.
Did my homework.
I didn't catch the assignment. So are those essential for what we're doing today or not?
No, I mean, essentially we're going to do everything that we did in those videos together today. Right. So that people can, when I make the videos, nothing goes wrong.
How many takes does it?
And I can do it in 1 take.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty good.
But, I wrote it, so I know where all the pitfalls are.
Yeah.
And I've done it 1,000 times, so.
Nothing like experience. Brad, I was showing the new Think C++ book to the folks that I wrote it for at Michigan, and it sounds like they like it, so that's good.
Good. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, they have 1,000 students a semester, so woo, fun data for me. Be nice to try Parsons problems in C++. We haven't done research on them other than Python.
Yeah.
And Java a little bit, just the log file stuff, but
that'll be great.
Is the C++ course available for self-study now? Is it on the main page, Brad?
If you go to the library, it shows up. So it is available for self-study.
Yeah.
And I believe I added it to the create a course page, which I guess we'll see whether I did that or not.
Yeah, I'm just typing in the chat window that I can use Think CPP as the course name if you want to add it as a course. It is, so what we've done is take the open source Creative Commons licensed How to Think Like a Computer Scientist C++ version by Alan Downing, and then we've made it interactive. We've added interactive features. I've had a couple of undergrads working on that. Actually started during the winter semester, and I've had a couple more working on it this summer. So they have now added interactive capability to every chapter of that book, but they're still going back through and making additional exercises. We want to make end of chapter exercises I like to have 10 at least multiple choice questions at the end of a chapter, 10 mixed up code problems at the end of a chapter, and 10 code practice problems at the end of a chapter. And they need to add yet the new unit test capability.
That's added.
No, but as far as in the problems, they haven't added it to the problems.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
We have support for it, but they haven't added it yet.
Right. Yep.
Do we think the College Board will ever switch language from Java? When I was on the AP Computer Science A Development Committee, I tried to get them to switch to Python. So who knows? There's what they do is try to follow what the majority of colleges are doing. So it's really up to what are the colleges doing. If the majority of colleges switch to Python, which a lot of them were, then they would switch to Python. But at the time that they last checked, and they only check every so many years, the majority of colleges were still using Java as a first language.
The next check will show that Python is the majority.
I would not be surprised.
According to Philip Guo's research. Yep.
Yeah, I wanted them to switch to Python years ago, but they were like, we're in the middle of creating AP Computer Science principles. We're not changing the A course anytime soon. But now that CS Principles is off and running, maybe they'll reconsider that. Oh, we're up to 72. We haven't broken our 100 just to make us, but I can already tell that it's different since I could make you a co-host. After this past year, they better not do anything. Yes, they did make a lot of changes. We're just waiting a few more minutes for more people to join, and then we'll get started. And Brad, you're going to take the lead on this part, right?
Yep.
Do you still teach interfaces to everyone? Oh, at least it's no longer C++. I began with Pascal, yeah, for CSA. It only was in C++ for 1 year. That was a pretty quick. I like interfaces. I like to explain how you can separate, what from who, what you want something to be able to do versus who's doing it. My first language was BASIC. Me too. In high school with the old teletype. The old teletypes with the modems that you had to put the phone in.
AppleSoft BASIC.
I don't even know what kind of BASIC it was.
I started out by hacking the lemonade stand program.
BASIC and an IBM 5110.
TRS-80.
Yeah. Fortran, Commodore 64. Basic COBOL and Fortran. Snowball. No small talkers out there? Nobody logo? PL1, I used PL1. Wow. That was the hot language when I was in college. Lisp.
In my programming languages class in college, we did PL1 and Lisp and APL with the keyboard overlay.
Wow.
But I'm showing my age.
APL, Sean.
Oh, I loved it.
Greek letters all the way down.
Yeah, it was like a precursor to Mathematica.
We have a question, Brad. I'm not sure. It says, is there a limit on the number of students that can be enrolled in a course? I don't know of any. Do we have any limit?
No. In fact, Paul Resnick is using it for a Coursera course.
Right.
And they have like 83,000 students registered for one course.
Somebody's a small talker. Yay.
I wouldn't recommend using the auto grader with 83,000, but
no, that would be sad.
Well, shall we get started, Barb?
Sure.
I think others will join.
I'll paste in again the.
I will. Let's see. Share the desktop here. Guess I could have cleaned up before I shared.
That's what I always do before I go to lecture. I'll close all my windows.
All right. What is this? So here we are. Just logged into the main page of Runestone. So I will point out this, like in an emergency, I can always fill in a little announcement here. So I've got how to sign up and where to look for the assignments highlighted in this little blue area. So anyway, our first task for the day, and I encourage everybody to just kind of follow along and do this as I kind of walk through it. And especially if you haven't created a class before, that is going to be our first task. It's going to be to create a course. And then if you have problems or questions about anything, just, type something into the chat and Barb will interrupt me and we'll answer everybody's questions as we go along. So for beginning instructors, the main thing is to make sure that you have actually just created an account and signed up for one of the open courses in Runestone. So it doesn't matter, because once you've signed up and have an account, then we can go to this create a course link right here at the top left of our homepage. So we'll just click on that and that'll bring us to this page. So you'll notice here that I've said for instructors only. So one of the things that I am working on doing is trying to tighten this up so that we can try to keep fewer courses from being created by students. So I think you may have noticed when some of you registered for the first time, I've said, please use your institutional email address. I'm probably going to add a field to the registration page where I'll ask you to provide a link to a home page as a part of an institution. So it's just a little annoying. We get so many courses created for one person, and I think 90% of them are probably students who think that if they create their own course, they can find the answer key, which is, of course, not necessarily the case, although we are working on, for both Foundations of Python Programming and for How to Think Like a Data Scientist courses, we have pretty extensive instructor materials for those courses. So I really want to try to find ways to limit the number of people that we make those instructor-only materials available to. So I'll be trying to make it easier for myself to validate that somebody actually is an instructor. So, because I don't have any magic knowledge that can tell me that one person is an instructor and one person isn't an instructor when you just come and register using an email address. So anyway, this is the course creation page. You want to give your course a name. So test course summer 20. And what I recommend that you do is you should create a new course every semester. So it's really cheap for me to create a new course, for you to create a new course. That wasn't always the case. It used to take a long time to build a new course for everybody, but now it's just a database table entry. So it's very, very cheap to do that. So give it a name, you know, put your semester or something like that in there. So you can put in whatever you want for this short description. Probably you'd want to put in something that you think would be useful, useful to your own students. Just for grant writing purposes, if nothing else, knowing the institutions and kind of knowing how many high school classes we have, how many community college classes we have, you know, how many people are using this at the graduate level. Those are both really useful pieces of information, particularly this, because one of Barb's goals and my goals is to do a much better job of categorizing and providing some difficulty level information to help you all make assignments more effectively and more efficiently, which again, we'll cover that tomorrow. But kind of knowing who wrote the questions and kind of what level of student those questions were written for is certainly an important piece of that. So just fill all that in. And then, so here's where you can select any of the available base courses to create your own course from. So Foundations of Python Programming, that's what our test course that we're using for this workshop is based off of, but here's the CS Awesome book here. And it doesn't look like Barb's new How to Think C++ book is here yet, but we'll get that added here very soon. So you can only select, you'll notice you can only select one course. That's a pretty fundamental assumption built into Runestone, is that a course has one textbook. I've gotten a handful of emails over the last couple of years from people asking if they can't have two textbooks tied to one course. But that would take a lot of work. So that one book, one course assumption is fundamental in a lot of different places in Runestone. So I certainly don't see that changing, at least this summer. So, and then there's some course options here. Require a username to access this course. So making your students log in. Enable the experimental pair programming features. So that's something that I added a couple summers ago, kind of as an experiment. And that allows students to share code back and forth with each other. As the instructor, you will know that they're sharing code and using that paired feature, because whenever they click the run button that will save the current version of their code, the server adds a comment at the top of the code using the appropriate comment character for whatever language they're writing in, that says this code was shared by so-and-so with so-and-so. So you'll know who the pair was.
Brad, just one interruption. When is the third edition of the data structures? Is that available now, or when will that be available?
I am waiting for my new co-author Roman to give me the okay to put that up here. He had some a few last minute edits, and actually we're adding the final 7th chapter. The advanced topics chapter is going into the online version of the 3rd edition. So I would expect that we'll be able to do that in the next couple weeks. All right, and then of course, make me the instructor of this course. I'm really not sure why we have that checkbox anymore, because it kind of goes without saying. So, and then the term start date. So, by default, we'll make that the current date, but you ought to try to make that as accurate as you can. Again, that just really is helpful for a lot of the kinds of analysis that we do on the textbooks to try to make sure that the questions are at the appropriate level and sort of see how students are using the book. If we we do a lot of that analysis by looking at the start date and then kind of going week by week so that we know, okay, this is what people are typically doing in week 1 of this course, or people are typically doing in week 3 of this course. This is how much students are using the book as the semester progresses. So having that accurate is good.
Brad, we had a question. Can we have 3 people for pair programming, or is it just 2?
Nope, it's just 2 people. It is truly a pair. So the way that works is you enable pair programming, and then you have a single box to type in your person that you're paired with, their username.
Yeah, the suggestion was in case, you don't have an even number of people in a class, so you might have one group with 3.
Yeah, yep. I can add that to the feature request list. These workshops are always good for generating lots of feature requests. All right, and then, so this is something that we were trying last spring to help support Runestone. If you're in a place where you'd be willing to have me send you an invoice and you'd be willing to, have your department or your school or whatever send some support towards Runestone's way, then that's awesome. If you can check this, and we will send you an invoice. All right, so that's kind of what. Any other questions about this? And then if you click the submit button, boom, oh, that name has already been used. Look at that, somebody beat me to it.
There was a question about pair programming. Can you change who you collaborate with from question to question or from problem to problem?
Yes, yep, it's on a problem by problem basis. Actually, it's on a submission by submission basis. So. All right.
Sean was asking, I believe that feature was written overnight, right, Brad? Was it the programming one?
Sean was at the workshop in New York City when I when I went back to my hotel room and wrote that overnight, yes.
Randy's asking, how is the Infinity Companion course integrated with Runestone?
So right now, I would say at arm's length is the way I would describe that. So Edfinity has developed over the last couple months, or I think we started working together back in February maybe, a set of canned homework exercises, a set of canned assignments to go with the Runestone textbooks. And so, we're taking it very much a step at a time to kind of see how things pan out, how much interest there actually is. Edfinity has had pretty good luck in doing this in the math world, but their first entry into the computer science world is by partnering with me on a couple of the Runestone open source books. So they're really kind of looking to see, how many people adopt this and how many don't. And then, if it looks like it's going to be one of those things that really takes off, then we can look forward to a much closer and tighter integration over time. But really now it's just a matter of them kind of putting together a set of prepackaged homework and exam for you that kind of go with the textbook. All right, other questions?
There's a question about, can you hide upcoming sections? Not sure what that means.
Yeah, if somebody wants to clarify what that means, that's
Yeah, BHU, can you clarify what you mean by hide upcoming sections? Upcoming units in the course for like CS Awesome?
Yes. Yeah, so I don't want them to see everything right now. I only want them to work on a particular section.
No, we don't have any way to hide those currently.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, we've always kind of had the, you know, the paper book model for the books in some ways in mind. Like the whole book is there. It's available to them.
There was a question about, do we have a demo video of using pair programming?
I don't believe I have a demo of that, but you know, if we had a couple seconds, we could do that. I know Sean is here. He's seen it. He's done it. We could do a quick demo of it if we have a few extra minutes later.
Oh, someone's trying to create a course for September 2020, but the calendar only gives the option of September 2019. That's because we haven't reached September 2020, right? Can you put a date that isn't existing yet?
Yeah, you can put a date out in the future.
Oh, okay.
People have done that. Let me go back to the home and let's see if we can. So if we click on this. Yeah, we can put I guess you have to, at least I'm not seeing any handy dandy little chevrons on the calendar here, but.
Oh, that's what somebody also noticed. They said the nav buttons on the calendar do not appear in Chrome. Oh, you can use the up-down arrows to advance months, somebody else says.
Yep. Or if you just click on it, it'll show you months. Or if you click again, it'll let you select years. So, or if you click on either side. Actually, I think this is one of those things that's different in each browser. So people may be seeing different things based on the browser they're using here. Are you taking notes on this stuff for me, Barb?
Well, it's in the chat window, which does get recorded too, but yes.
Okay. All right. Other questions?
On the student side, when they do an assignment, will it not update till I look at it? I've noticed as I watched the videos for today, it said I had done 0 out of 3 activities. Yeah, and it says this may be a question for tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow we're going to go over the assignments and how that all works. Oh, there's a question, can I rename a course after you've named it?
No, once you've named the course, that name is its identifier for all time.
You could drop a course and then create a new one if you wanted to.
Right. You could remove a course from the instructors page here. You can always delete. You can delete a course and then make a new one. But no, things get written to the database using the name of the course as the identifier in a lot of different places. So renaming a course and changing that identifier would be super messy. All right. So let's move on then, and let's talk about managing students in your course. So I'm at our instructor interface on the admin tab. Click on this manage students block here, and you'll see that you have a number of options that you can work with here. So I guess we can just sort of work from left to right today and talk through some things. So first thing to notice is, and maybe I'll change into a different course. Maybe I'll change into this course where we have a lot of users. And I'll manage the students. So there we go. So now we can see lots of students. So if I want to remove a student, so let's see. I won't actually remove anybody. But all you have to do, if a student drops your course, you can just come in here. You can click on that student's name, and then, or you can click on multiple students at a time using shift click or alt click on the Mac, and click on remove students, and that will take them out of your class. So one thing that I have always felt fairly strongly about is that you don't get to delete students from the database. So just because they've dropped your course, they may not want to have lost all of their information or all the work that they've done. So what it does when you remove a student from your course is it basically transfers that student back to the base course, right? So if I remove Judith here, she ends up being placed back in the FOPP base course, along with all of the work that she'd done, all of the assignments and so forth, right? And then that leaves it up to the student. If a student or any of you want to completely remove yourself from the Runestone system, then you can certainly do that. And the way that you would do that is you would just click on Edit Profile here. And then you'll see down here at the bottom of that profile editing, you can check the box that says delete my account and all data. And then you got to click on the delete button, which I'm not going to be doing. But so that is the only way that a student kind of gets completely wiped out of the Runestone database is by deleting themselves. All right. Another feature that I added for my own personal sanity was this reset password feature. So, you know, students are pretty notorious for forgetting their passwords. I mean, it always amazes me when I look at the traffic and see like the reset password function gets used 400 times a day or more. But even worse than that, sometimes they enter their email incorrectly into the registration field. So that's another thing that I'm probably going to add is to add the feature that does the email verification, so that you have to use a valid email address, so that we'll know that the reset will go somewhere. But this lets you, as the instructor only, you can click on the reset password button here, and it'll let you assign a new password for that student. And then the student will be able to log in. And then the last kind of thing on this managing students page is this ability for you to create a CSV file full of information about your students, and then upload that CSV file, and it will automatically register all the students for your class, right? So, the way that you can do that is to use Microsoft Excel, or to use, or you could use Numbers, or you can use Google Sheets. You can use whatever your favorite spreadsheet program is, and you can just create a little spreadsheet of students here. Why did it do that? That's not what I wanted. Excel never does what I want it to do. All right. I guess it's gonna delimited. It's comma delimited. There we go. All right, so view, zoom.
Hey, Brad, can you enlarge your fonts a little bit?
I just did.
Okay,
I just made them 200% as you started to say that.
I was reading the chat where they're asking for that.
Right, so the order of these things has to match up. The first column has to be the username. The second column has to be an email address, then their first name and their last name, and then you assign them a password, and then the course that they're all going in. And of course, that course should match the course that you're registering the students for. So one thing that's worth just spending a little bit of time on this, and if you watch the video or do watch the video later, I spend quite a bit of time going through this as well, is so this is a great feature if you want to create a class where you're giving Runestone no personally identifiable information about your students. You can do this because you can make up their username. So, you know, whatever convention that you want to use for your own sanity, maybe you just, you know, use the name of your institution and a number. And then you can like use whatever you want for first name and last name. You could just say a student. And then one thing that you can do when you're using this CSV file mode of registration is you could either put in your own email here, or what I would really recommend that you do here is you can go get a Gmail account from Google, and then you can use this my name plus something at gmail.com, right? And so this plus part is just an alias, and so you can have everything will go to this my name at gmail.com account, but you'll be able to tell which student it was really aimed at by using this alias part, right? So that lets you kind of use an anonymous email address, but it'll also inform you which student was requesting a password to be reset at the same time. All right, so that lets you create, you know, whatever usernames you want, a consistent convention for your emails, completely anonymous first and last names, and you can create the course with all of that. And once you've uploaded it and created usernames for all your students, then you can come back over here and put, you know, real name 1, real name 2, so that you have a spreadsheet that reminds you, you know, who all these usernames actually map to, right? I mean, the only reason that I'm asking for any personally identifiable information is that, you know, teachers have to know want to know who they're grading and how they're going to assign grades from the Runestone Gradebook to the actual students. So that's the only reason why we have the first name and last name in here, is to make life easier for all of you teachers. And then we have the email address so that the password reset feature works. But I know that all of this student privacy is getting to be a bigger and bigger issue all across the country. So the more that I can do to make this work without capturing PII, the happier I am. All right, so once you've got that file, all you've got to do is go to Excel here, and you can export it or save it as, and you can just choose save as use this CSV, this comma delimited file format. And it will save it as a plain text file, so you can even bring it up in your editor and look at it, make sure it looks okay. And then once that file is showing as being selected there, click the Register Student button, and it'll upload that file and register all your students. All right, any questions about that?
No, we're getting a bunch of different questions. Can you register students multiple times? At the beginning of the year, first month or so, I have students enrolling weekly.
Yes, so you can upload more, you can add students to the class that way, yes.
Can they change their name if you give them some sort of generic name originally?
They can. you should admonish them not to if your goal is for them to keep their privacy.
Will the gradebook list students alphabetically by the last name field?
Oh, you're testing my memory. We'll look at the gradebook tomorrow.
There's been questions about copying assignments from a previous course, but then they said they found it in the admin tab on the instructor's page.
Yep, there's this little check area here that says copy assignments. And if you select one of your past courses that is based on the same original course, you can select that, and it will then give you the option to say, you can either copy all the assignments that you've created, or you can choose to copy the assignments one at a time from that course into your course.
There was a question if somebody was working in the open version of a book and then you create a course for that, you know, a custom course, and then they join that book, will their previous answers still be saved?
They'll never lose anything. No.
I said it depends if they were logged in or not.
Right.
If they're not logged in, we don't know who they are. But if they were
Right.
logged in, then we would keep their previous answers.
We would keep their previous answers, but for purposes of grading for your course, the work has to be done and saved with your course. Okay?
Yeah, I'm reading the.
Okay.
Oh, somebody had trouble with the CSV. It only accepted one line. Have you read into that?
So there was a weird bug that I fixed last week, because somebody had reported it to me last week that they were having problems exporting from Excel. And sure enough, I looked at it, and Excel was trying to be helpful by adding an invisible space character as the very first character for the very first student. And this was a thing that I never knew about CSV files, is that's actually a legal thing to do to help your CSV processor know how your file is encoded, whether it's encoded in ASCII or UTF-8 or whatever. And so they put that invisible space character in there, and that was, at least for that person, causing the import to break. But no, I haven't experienced that. And this feature does get used pretty often, so.
The other question was, if I upload another CSV, will that add to my list of students or replace it?
No, it always adds, right? Just remember, there is no way to delete a student. The student must delete themselves.
Someone asked if can we create multiple sections of the same course so they show up as 3 separate sections in the gradebook?
No. We had that feature several years ago and took it out because it was more trouble than it was worth. If you want to have separate sections, the best way to handle that is to create 3 separate courses, and then use this copy assignments feature to copy the assignments between your 3 sections.
There was a question, if I change assignment details after copying, does it only change the copy?
Depends on where you change the details. I mean, it's going to only change the details for the course that you're currently editing. Yeah, we're not that smart.
That's all the current questions, I think.
Okay. Couple other things to look at under managing students and whatnot here is we call it add a TA, but really we could promote anybody. So, whoops, what did I do? I think I just found a bug. We could select anybody here, apparently not by searching in Safari at the moment, and we could make that person immediately become either a TA or a co-instructor for the class. Or we could demote them so that they're not co-instructors anymore. So the only real comment that I would want to make here is that in order for you to promote somebody, they have to be already enrolled in the course. So they would have to just go enroll as a normal student in your course, and then you can use this page to give them a promotion and make them an instructor. So that's how you add co-instructors or TAs. So there's this other course settings. So some people have said, oh, I'd like to be able to turn on pair programming for one day, but not for every day. And so if this is something that you want to do, if you want to allow pair programming on a particular day of your course, all you got to do is before class, go in here, check this allow pairs button, and then that will enable the pair programming for that day. And I'll actually leave it enabled here in case we want to look at it in a few minutes. This enable active code downloads, that was something that somebody contributed to Runestone. So they said that copying and pasting out of the active code box was too much work, so they wanted to have a button so that students could just click the download button and download any contents of an active code window automatically into a text file on their computer. So if you enable that button, you'll see that active code widgets will all have buttons. And if you want to modify your term start date, because maybe you were in a hurry when you created your course, or you were unsure with COVID-19 when your term would actually start, then you can always come back to this tab here and change your course settings and update your term start date to be correct. Okay. So the last topic then that I'm going to cover is just how do you monitor your students' progress? And one of the things that we've learned over the last several years is that, you know, there's about as many ways to use Runestone as there are teachers using Runestone. So everybody kind of has their own thing. So originally we were kind of very opinionated that if you're, you know, going to use some of the features of Runestone, that you ought to be making assignments and kind of doing things the way that we had intended, but we've learned that that doesn't always fit with whatever institutional guidelines you may have to be working within. So there's a number of ways that you can kind of manage and follow your students' progress. So I'll go over a couple of the quick and easy ones on this page right now. This one we added this spring. So this came out of some discussions with a lot of the CS Awesome faculty on the news group for CS Awesome. So they wanted to be able to just know, well, what if my students are online right now? So here I can see, here is the list of people who have registered for using Runestone 20, and that have been actually, you know, doing something in the textbook in the last 15 minutes. So this list was a lot longer when I first logged on today. So people haven't been messing around too much in the actual textbook while we've been talking. All right, but that does just sort of give you an idea, especially kind of in this remote teaching mode of if you're trying to do something synchronously, you can kind of know who's actually active. The other thing that we have here, and I'm going to actually switch books for this because this is showing everybody that's enrolled in our workshop here. So you see this is a really big, wide spreadsheet. So I'm going to go, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my development server here, and I'm going to go to my test course and go back to this page. That way we don't have to worry about FERPA. So here I have that same chapter progress report. And so here we have myself and my 4 students that I've registered from Hogwarts College. So what this does, this is something that a lot of people were asking for. They're just asking to say, well, I just want to have some kind of an overview that kind of shows me what who's active in the course, how many activities are my students doing in each of the chapters that I've assigned, and so forth. And so that's all that this is designed to do. So this is a great big kind of spreadsheet oriented thing. It shows every page of the textbook, organized and ordered by chapters. If it is a little overwhelming, we have this is using an open source JavaScript table widget that gives you some nice ability to filter things and so on. So we could just say, oh, I only am interested in everything that begins with, I'm interested in chapter 5, so we just want to look for things that start with 5 dot something. And that'll immediately filter this for us down to just showing us the stuff in chapter 5, right? And what this particular report is just showing, okay, Hogwarts 1, this student in section 5.3, they've done 4 activities in that chapter. They haven't looked at, or 5.4, they've done 3 activities in 5.5. They've done 1 activity in the exercises page. Hogwarts 4 has done 7. So if we want to drill down on that, these are clickable. So I can click on this 7, and that'll bring me to this page. And that shows me all the activities. It shows me the details of how many clicks have they had to interact with each of these activities. If it's an activity that can be auto-graded, right, we'll show whether they've got that activity correct or not. And then if you are like, well, I don't remember what question 3 to 4 actually is, because I didn't write the book. So how am I supposed to make any sense of these silly names that you have over here? There, you can click on this view button, and that'll show you a preview of what all these questions actually look like. And then, if you're interested in knowing, okay, so this is how this student did on the question, but I'm interested in seeing more details about how the entire class did on this, then you could click on this, and it will bring you to this very detailed page, and it'll show you for all the people who've answered this question, it'll show you what was their first response, what was their second response, their third response, and their fourth response. So we'll see that both Harry and Draco answered B for this question on the first try, and then Draco tried to answer C on the second try for this question. This is just a little histogram over here showing the number of it, kind of a histogram of the number of attempts on the questions, right? So 3 students haven't even tried to answer the question. 1 student has tried 1 response, and 1 student has tried 2 responses. So that gives you a whole bunch of detail about each question and how your class might be responding to that question. Okay. This is another place. There are several places. We'll talk about this again tomorrow when we're talking about putting together an assignment. But if you're kind of going through this and you see a question that looks like it has a typo in it, or you think that maybe the wording on it is particularly bad, or maybe you just think it's a crappy question, you can click this flag for review button. And all that does is it adds a mark to the database. And then we have some people who volunteered to be editors. And so I can show you at some point that we have a little editorial page interface, and it'll just show the editors a list of questions that have been flagged and give the editors an opportunity to review those questions. And some of them are contributed questions by instructors, and maybe those questions are actually not meant to be real questions. They're just questions that are there for practice purposes or learning about the interface, and some of those can just be deleted. Others are clearly just duplicates and should be also deleted. Some of them are maybe just have a typo that can be quickly cleaned up. So that flag for review button there means that you want to have an editor take a look at it. All right. So this page, so that's the default on this kind of chapter overview, is just to show you the number of interactions each student has had with the page, or the number of activities on that page each student has looked at. You can get more detail on this, like we can show the first interaction. And so this gets into even more detail because it goes page by page, activity by activity, and it'll show you the timestamp of the first time that each student tried to interact with each of these little items on the page. Or you could see the last time, right? So if a student complains that they're not getting credit for something, sometimes you can just come to this page and say, well, let's see when the last time you interacted with something was, and you can say, well, that was clearly after the due date for this assignment, so that's why you didn't get credit for it. Questions about that at all?
Some of the questions that have been sort of coming up, not really about that per se. People are liking this new feature. But one question we had before was when people drop a course, that doesn't delete the course, right? That just takes you out of that course, so to speak. If as an instructor, I drop a course.
From this change course page? From the change course page?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you drop a course, that doesn't delete the course. Dropping the course just removes you from the course.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
And then there was a question about API for assignments. I wasn't quite sure what that meant. I mean, you might want to show them they can drop the log file and take a look at that. Oh, there's also a question about what time zone is used for these reports. It's hard to code for these, but it's also confusing if there's a time deadline.
Right. So we store everything on the server in universal coordinated time. But when you make a deadline, we know what time zone you're in when you make that assignment. And so we use your local time zone for the deadline for the assignment and make the appropriate conversion.
There was one nice suggestion that for the flag for review, allow a place to add a comment or a short answer.
Yep. Yes, that would be good, because as an editor, I can say it's not always clear to me why people have flagged a question.
Exactly. I think those were the major things that we hadn't answered yet. People are saying that this is quite a bit of work since they last used Rinstone 3 years ago. There was a question about the 0.0 on the points. And I said that's because it is possible to get partial credit for things. Depends on how they're graded.
Yep. I like floats.
People are saying this will be enormous help in the fall.
So the last tab that I'll show here is the student progress tab. So this maybe hasn't changed too much over time. And I'm just going to go to this chapter 5. But this is a really useful page if you're just sort of preparing for class and you want to think about, well, what should I kind of make a priority to cover in class today? And so you've assigned a particular set of pages that you wanted to have your students to read. And so if you come to this page, each one of these questions, for each page, we have this set of donut charts for all the things that can be automatically graded. And so what this is showing is, so for this particular question, we can see that one student here got it right after multiple attempts. One student never got it correct after many attempts. And then 3 students haven't even tried it. Versus this question here that shows, one student got it right on the first attempt. Usually these are a lot more filled in than this. This is just, again, remember my practice course. And so then you can click on this exercise. You can say, oh, this looks kind of suspicious. Maybe I want to cover a review of what this question is getting at. And so you can click on it here, and this shows you the question and the details again on how students answered that question. So I find this super helpful because I try to teach in more of a flipped model, you know, not where I'm necessarily having students watch videos, but having students, you know, go through the interactive textbook, and then we spend class time reviewing and working on projects and doing exercises during class time. But looking at this as a quick review before class starts is a great way to see what students might be having trouble with.
The question about the API was having to do with the person, so it's Bill, Montana, says that they have to be able to program, they want to be able to programmatically add assignments to the LMS since that's where they're required to post assignments. So they're looking for an API to help with that.
Yes, so here we come back to the dreaded LTI integration. So we do have some LTI integration. It's working at a few schools, such as the University of Michigan and Mississippi State and a couple of other schools. What I don't have is a sort of nice user-friendly interface to just let you quickly configure that and make it work. And I'm very hopeful that I'm going to get a little bit of support money coming through in the next week that will motivate me to actually work on that and make that LTI interface more human accessible.
We had a question about the time zone. Is it the student's time zone or the instructor's time zone?
So it's so there's, again, whenever a student does something, we store what they've done in universal time. So that's just the best way of handling that is to store it in universal time. And then when the instructor makes an assignment, then it uses the time zone that the instructor is in to make sure that the deadline for that assignment is properly converted to universal time. And then we always, I say with a hopeful tone in my voice, properly convert that universal time back to whatever time zone the student or the instructor happens to be sitting in when they're actually viewing timestamp information in the browser. So we try to always convert it back to the local time when we're displaying times in the browser. And time zone math turns out to be quite an interesting experience because the browsers are not consistent, even in the API that the browsers provide for doing time zone conversions. You know, a couple of years ago, I learned that there are 15-minute time zones and half-hour time zones in India and Australia and other places around the world. So it's not as simple as we think it is sometimes to just add or subtract an hour here or there. But I think with the help of a lot of very patient instructors, some of whom I could name who are signed up for this, you know, we've eradicated most, if not all, of those time zone bugs over the last several years.
There was a question, the person missed how you got to that long table with the number of activities in the last 15 minutes.
So that's from this admin tab. And then there's this chapter progress report, which does this big table. And similarly, there's the students online tab. You can also get to this chapter progress tab from here, from the student progress dashboard. You can click on this chapter activity.
There's a request to display time like 7:30 p.m. rather than 19:30:34.
Yeah, I'll never make everybody happy with that one. I'm sorry.
I think it has to be a changeable thing, right? A selection thing. Just make me happy, says Anthony.
Then pretty soon you have options for everything.
Can we export the table as CSS? Or CSV, I think they mean.
Yep. So this chapter progress table, you can download it as CSV.
Yeah.
So we can click on that And yep, you can see there, you saw the little animation. There it is in my downloads right there, which I strongly recommend doing. If you want to slice it or dice it on your own, download it as a CSV and then bring it up in your favorite spreadsheet program.
Well, we should wrap up. We only have a minute to go. So is there homework tonight they have to do?
Yep, so I will be posting in momentarily. I've got 2 videos, one on creating assignments and one on grading assignments. And I apologize that the creating assignment one is 25 minutes long, and I felt like I was rushing, but it's a big topic. So, and I do try to give some background at the beginning and kind of on the philosophy of the different kinds of assignments in Runestone to just sort of set the stage there. So yeah, I'll get those posted momentarily. But yeah, that's the assignment for tomorrow, is to watch those 2 videos. So
maybe show them in case they haven't figured out how to see the assignments in the ebook.
So the easiest way is actually to just pull down the little person menu and click on the assignments button. And that shows you the assignments. Maybe I should go back to I'll go back to this proper course. So click on the assignments and it'll show you the list of assignments that are out there. They're sorted by due date. The other way to do it is if you just, from the table of contents here, there is an assignments link here, and that'll get you to the same place.
Well, I have another meeting, so we should end this one. But yay, I'm so glad Zoom worked correctly. We get lots of thank yous in the chat window.
All right.
And we'll see people tomorrow, 3 o'clock Eastern time.
Thanks,
Tomorrow
everybody.
We'll be talking about assignments. Bye, everybody.